Well, what if they're actually already free?
I want you.
What if they are? Well, that's a good question. What if they are
They
free?
don't have a slave.
What if they're a third generation freeborn African American in Massachusetts? My grandfather was a free person here. Lived here all my life, and now you're telling me I'm a slave? It happened. And this scared a lot of free blacks. There's a large exodus of free blacks to Canada when this act is passed. Now here's the other bad thing about it. Let's say, I'm just I'm a regular white guy in Massachusetts, maybe I'm a blacksmith. And I hear about slavery, and I think, slavery's bad, but it's down south. It's not really affecting me up here. I'm never going to own a slave. I think it's not a good institution, but I got my own life to worry about. I'm not going to worry about what's in the south. Problem is, the Fugitive Slave Act comes out. I'm a law-abiding citizen. I want to do my duty for the government, right? I have some civic pride. Well, this law says I have a responsibility now for identifying people I think are runaway slaves. You see the problem? So Ken, I see Ken on the street every day. Ken, how are you? Good, Mr. Cline, how are you? We pass each other, we talk, and now all of a sudden I have to go and say to someone, I think Ken's a runaway slave. All of a sudden that brings that issue a lot closer to home, doesn't it? Now it's not just in the South. Now these slave owners in the South are expecting me to do their dirty work. They're expecting me to go around and point out who's a slave or not, because if I don't, if I think Ken is a runaway slave and I don't report him, then I'm breaking the law. I'm a criminal, right? Yes, sir.
What if you think they were running? What if you just said, I don't think he's a runaway slave. I've been talking to him forever. He says he's not. He's a free man.
You're lying. You're lying, because we have proof that he's a runaway slave. What if he turns out to be a runaway slave? Maybe he ran away 15 years ago when you first met him.
Then I'm sorry, sir. How do you know?
Well, that's not good enough. You're guilty. That's exactly that come get me. That's exactly the attitude a lot of these white people start taking. Is come get me then, because I'm not putting up with all this junk from southern slave owners down south. You see how it brings it home, and it starts making people pretty angry? They start getting passionate about this, and all of a sudden, our topic for today, you'll see on the schedule, sectionalism, states' rights. Sectionalism is that divide between the sections, the north and the south. All of a sudden, that wall, that divide between them, starts getting bigger and thicker, and people start getting angrier and angrier. Matter of fact, it gets so bad, the Senate, where people are supposed to be able to debate and discuss civilly, and we disagree, the majority rules. The senator from Massachusetts gets up to give a speech against the Compromise of 1850. A southern senator, especially the Fugitive Slave Act, a southern senator gets up with his cane and beats the Massachusetts senator, Senator Sumner, almost to death. This is how rough and tumble slave politics is getting. This is how in your face and violent the argument is getting. It's no longer just, well, I think it should be this. Well, I think it should be this. Now it's, well, and we're pushing people and we're throwing fists, right? Another place, remember we talked about the compromise that a slave would have, a state, when it applied for statehood, would have popular sovereignty. Now we get into the Kansas-Nebraska Act, because Kansas has applied to become a state. And we say, okay, popular sovereignty is going to decide whether you're slave or free. That'd be fine and dandy if it was just the people in Kansas, right, voting. Then they could say, most of them would probably have said free state at that time. But here's the problem. They border Missouri. What's Missouri?
Split in half, right?
Now, Missouri, is it a free state or a slave state? It's a slave state. So all those people in Missouri are going up to Kansas to influence the vote. Well, people who are angry about all this stuff, remember tempers are rising in these abolitionist states, New England? They send a bunch of people to Kansas to influence the vote because they hear these slave owners going up there to do it. And it isn't just this polite little yelling or maybe some protesting with some signs at the polling place. Things break out pretty bad. The whole period of time that this is going on comes to be known as Bloody Kansas. Because these people were forming militia units to fight each other. The border ruffians from Missouri. One of the greatest fighters of this era is John Brown. You ever heard of John Brown? This is where he gets his lust for blood, his willingness to kill over the slavery issue, is in Kansas. And literally, people are killing each other. They're killing women and children. There's massacres. People are afraid to go out of their house. This isn't just a polite debate. Are you for national health care? No, I'm not. Well, I think you should be because of this. No, this is, are you for national health care? No. Bang!
What is that camera?
So, this turns into a very bloody, violent conflict, and it shocks the nation that, oh my gosh, this is what's going on over slavery. Just let it go. Let it just be a free state. That's what they would have voted for. And so again, the polarization is taking place, and now it's erupted into fighting. And a lot of people will say what happens in Kansas is the first actual battles of the Civil War.